It is day one of our first ever streamer invitational chess tournament. And this morning I woke up and I felt a random sense of inspiration to play like Hikaru. There's this one game of his that I've been studying for many months, waiting for the chance to play in a tournament, and I decided today is the day. Now, I'm going to show you why it completely backfired. For the first round, I got paired against Jules Gambit. She may be only 1800 FIDE, but she just got back into competitive chess 2 years ago, and she's already almost my rating. Plus, she's been consistently shit-talking me this entire time, so I was pretty terrified. Okay, let's get into the game. I'm gonna just go through the opening really quick, and she played a delayed Alapin, but then decided to refuse the trade, where you usually take on d5 here, and decided to close the position. Now, if you go knight c6 right away as black, you kind of have this annoying bishop g5 pin. So this is where my Hikaru moment came in clutch. I have been looking at this one game, which was a rapid game, where the move a6 was played, preventing it. Then they have this really cool plan where they break through later with f6. Funny enough, I found out after the game that Hikaru actually played with the white pieces, not the black pieces, but nevertheless, black had won the game with this line. So I've been envisioning this moment for literally the 3 months that I got into competitive chess. In the back of my head, I was imagining when I'm gonna go do a wardrobe change and put on my pineapple shirt. Okay, so I went a6, like that Hikaru game, even though I got the color swapped that I had studied. And I'm gonna show you guys the game so you can see the idea that I was trying to play for. Let's just all ignore that he was actually white. I was really trying to pay my respects. And this is how the game went. Same thing, delayed Alapin, they go h3 to prevent this bishop g4 threat, and then black gets this nice f6 move. And it might look like, oh, you're blundering a pawn on c5, but you're not, because you can take on e5. And that's pretty much your entire threat, is to try to push in the center. And it's especially strong because you have your bishop that's gonna control the dark squares. So Hikaru's game, they obviously didn't just lose that pawn, they trade. You develop your knight nicely with a tempo where you can take the pawn. Now you've got a beautiful semi-open file for the rook, it's really juicy, and you might be thinking the pawn is still hanging. Well, I'll show you what happens when they take. Now you're trying to take over this dark square on f4, you want to attack the bishop, want to make space for your rook. They finally take the pawn, and bang! Bring in the knight, attack the bishop, they're retreating, and bang, e5. Now this is the move I've been dreaming about. e5, although you're down a pawn, you have the center control, and you have a beautiful attack on the f-file. Meanwhile, this pawn is also pretty weak. Now, in this game, they traded, he got the rook on f4, and just slowly developed and just went for the attack, which is the way I like to play chess.
Hey guys, it's Andrea from the future, and we have some life-changing news for you.
We're sponsored by Marvel Snap!
As you know, we love strategy games, but we've spent most of our life playing a meaningless board game called chess.
Which is why we're playing Marvel Snap, an award-winning card collectible game which only takes 3 minutes.
Which is my favorite time control. But chess, it's a lonely game, which is why I'm cripplingly single.
It's okay, sister. With the new feature alliances, you can team up with anyone, your friends, your sibling, or maybe even a future lover.
I found my love on Marvel Snap.
Do you think I'll find love?
No, but what I think you'll love is how many artists and card varieties there are. They've partnered with over 300 artists to create more than 2,000 unique card art variants. Here's some of the ones that you can collect. Speaking of collecting, don't forget to check out the new limited time mode Deadpool's Diner. You can earn up to 32 unique rewards, including Cassandra Nova, a brand new card. Act fast, because this mode is only available until August 6th.
Now, back to chess, although I wish I was playing some Marvel Snap instead.
We love Marvel Snap!
If you want to look at the game, I'll also link it below. Maybe you'll have better luck. But anyways, I saw this pawn sack idea, and I really liked the idea that black got this pawn push and that they went for the kingside attack. Because I'm always trying to checkmate. I'm not the most patient person, even though I'm trying to work on that. So now, just carefully look at this position here, yeah? Notice a couple key differences. Number one, bishop's on d3, not on e2. But the most important one is that, wait, hang on. Okay, let me actually look at this before I preach. Let me actually understand I mean, to be honest, this is like a completely different position. And I think I can't even blame Hikaru. No, all morning I had to edit TikToks for the girls. So when I looked at my prep, I got one idea and I stuck with it. But looking at this, the position's really different and it's kind of obvious why this would go wrong. But anyways, I was trying to learn and I was trying to study a model game. So just, cut me some slack. Okay, so here's my game. Relatively similar. If you're below 1800, you can't really tell the difference. So first off, they went bishop e2 instead of bishop d3, which isn't that big of a deal. If anything, the bishop's stronger on d3, so I was fine. In this moment of the game, in my head, I am already seeing the thumbnail, and the title is called I Am Hikaru Nakamura. And I was expecting to crush. I was thinking, haha, I surprised her because usually I take on d4, but I'd learned my lesson from my previous game that you allow them to take, and that's the whole point where the Hikaru idea comes in. I was so confident that I leave the room and I go and I put on a pineapple shirt. And I returned to the board. She didn't even look up. She didn't even notice that I had changed shirts. She was that locked in, which is crazy because I thought she had ADHD like me, but I swear. And then the funniest part, I'm walking around and all of a sudden Dina shows up in a pineapple shirt. And Dina also didn't win her game, so maybe it didn't bring us any good luck. But you know what? We damn looked cool playing chess, and that's what matters. Okay, so here I put on my pineapple shirt, and if you don't notice, there's a key difference in this position. One is that the bishop's on e2, not on d3, and the second is that h3 wasn't played. So it's already slightly a different position, but f6 is still one of the top computer moves, and the idea still works, you just have to be careful. Now, Jules really surprised me here with her move. She played bishop f4. I was completely expecting bishop e3, reviewed some games to go knight h6, knight g4. Now, here's the critical difference. When the bishop is on f4, there is a way that they can end up trading this bishop, and that entire e5 plan does not work if you don't have your dark squared bishops because you need to control the dark squares. I'll show you why. So bishop f4, I continued with my development. Don't have much option but to take, and knight h6 in this position was the best move for black. I took my time. Really, you have nowhere else to develop your knight. f6 is going to close this file and you want to activate your rook. Here you also don't want to close your bishop. Knight h6 was totally fine. Now here she surprised me. She took, takes, and while it looks like black has a bad pawn structure, you can't take this pawn because then you get e5, and this is very nice, blocking the doubled pawns. You have the center. This was the position I was hoping to get. And you can't really attack my pawns any other ways. Here I could just defend bishop d7. So although it kind of had a weird pawn structure, position's still pretty equal. But then she played bishop e5. And this is where the mistake comes from memorizing one idea, but not really understanding the key themes of a position. Now here, I barely considered taking back on the bishop. I saw this position, and it's relatively even. You have a weird pawn structure, but you could trade off the light squares later. Maybe over here, you could put your rook here, you can activate this knight, and white can never attack your pawn on e7 because the file is closed. I could have taken, and the position would have been totally fine. But this is where my critical error happened. I thought, take my bishop, I'll give it to you. And I castled, let her took, and when she took this pawn, I very confidently, in my pineapple shirt, pushed e5, thinking, bam, never saw this coming, look at this, I'm sacrificing pawns, I'm playing like a GM, I'm finally not sacrificing pieces, which usually in my case is just blundering. But this actually doesn't work in this position. Previously, in the Hikaru game, when the bishop was on g7, it was very different because you could push that bad boy. You could go to e4, you can control these squares, and white doesn't have that many threats. But here, if you push e4, your king is very weak. There's no bishop to defend it. The queen comes in, and your knight is on the side. It's kind of undefended. So just because how exposed my king is without that important bishop, the position has completely changed. So now white slightly has the advantage. I was still living in my own pineapple dreams, didn't really realize I had done something wrong. She goes knight d2, which I felt was slightly passive, but white has just a great plan. They can go b4, and then develop their knight, push the c-pawn, and you can't really do anything about it. So I was just trying to defend my pieces, bringing out queen e7, realizing she's gonna go b4 anyways, but I might as well try to defend this pawn, try to connect my rooks, just playing basic moves. And now she made a small inaccuracy, kind of giving me a chance to get the game back. If she would have just went b4, this would have been much more solid. Now her knight's not blocking her own pawns, and she can even go a4 and try to break through here later, which is where her attack is. Meanwhile, I can't really break through in the center because as soon as I try to push here, she's gonna take use of this square, and now knight b3 threatening knight d4. But because she goes knight b3 right away, she's giving me some chance to gain some space. And I played 3 perfect moves in a row, which I was pretty happy about, not the other parts, but a5, threatening a4, getting the pawn off the light squares and trying to get some space over here. Now I'm threatening this, so white must go a4. And now we've created a slight weakness. The knight is going to be undefended if the queen moves, and the b2 pawn is a weakness. I even was hoping later for ideas to bring my rook to f4, like in the Hikaru game. Count the times I've said Hikaru in this video. If it's more than 10, you should force him to reply to our Discord DMs. Anyways, now here I saw the couple ideas, but I went bishop d7, just trying to defend this pawn, connect my rooks, and hope for attack later on this file. And c4, Jules really surprised me here, and I don't think this was her best move, just because by allowing me to push d4, which was the best move, slowly I'm gaining control over the dark squares. Now these doubled pawns are a little awkward, and if I can get on this b4 square, I get some compensation and I can attack these pawns. So when she pushed, I was happy, but my center is still kind of weak and I've still got some holes, as you can see, just because my king's kind of exposed. But here the position's nearly equal, so I'm coming back from my big mistake just because this knight b3 move gave me so much momentum. Queen d2, and now bang, bring in the rook. And here the best move was not so easy to find, but now I'm very happy with my position. I've just played 3 perfect moves in a row, and I'm attacking this knight, which is defending here, hoping to get my rook on b4 and double the rooks and attack, slowly getting the attack. And here she played rook a3, which was a big mistake, but the correct move, bishop d1, is not so obvious. And this gives me the nice option to finally go rook b4, because if you take, while it might look like, oh, you just have to go back, you're not getting anything, you bring this rook to the b file, and now I have a double attack. I'm threatening this pawn, and I'm threatening this pawn, and your knight can't run. So I saw this position, I was getting really excited. Mind you, this entire game, I'm getting into terrible time pressure because we are in the magic castle of distraction. My sister brought her bird to this tournament. When I'm under intense time pressure, I just hear the bird squeak, squeak, and no one's giving him attention. I look outside, my dad and my sister are getting a magic show. I didn't sleep very much. I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee. I've definitely caffeine crashed by this point. So my time management was really bad, which is ultimately the reason my ending didn't go so well. So while I'm here, I'm really taking too much time, while Jules, as you can see, is already up 10 minutes on the clock. So here, knight goes back, and bishop f5, best move. So that if she goes knight here, attacking my rook and defending this pawn, I just trade, very happy, and I take this pawn, and now black is better. So bishop f5 was very good, bishop d3, and now I make the same mistake I make every single time. You have 10 minutes on the clock. You're lower on time. You should just play a solid move. You shouldn't go for the attack. You shouldn't create weaknesses. I saw that if I push, rook comes to the file, I take, and I evaluated this position wrong. You know, I thought here I have enough of an attack, but ultimately the knight is coming in, and now black is in danger. This is almost +3, which means being almost down 3 pawns when it's equal material. But I completely misevaluated the position, and I could have just played a normal move like rook a b8, just doubling your rooks, and this is literally the reason I haven't hit 2000. This was practically where I blundered the game. Alright, I'm not going to show you guys the end of this game because frankly, it is so embarrassing. But it has motivated me to prepare and do some puzzles for my next game and hopefully not get into time pressure. Now, I can't really blame Hikaru for this loss, to be honest. It is a mistake that I repetitively make over and over, where there's one small detail that's different and then everything goes wrong. And to be honest, this is chess in a nutshell. So this is kind of what I expect out of a streamer tournament. However, I will try to redeem myself. I still have Dina, I still have my sister, I still have Anna Cramling. I'm gonna brush up, and one day, I'm gonna make Hikaru proud. That's never gonna happen after this video, but one day a girl can dream. Thank you for watching, and see you guys next time.